So good. We had to see it twice. Wednesday's hot topic, a Eastern Conference playoff preview in the MLS. Inter Miami and the Messi Show comes to Columbus, Ohio this evening.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Robert, for you, do you think these are clearly the two best teams in Major League Soccer?
I do think so. I have had the opportunity to see Columbus in person a couple times, and the way they play is incredibly exciting, and just like a whole new take on kind of the way an MLS team approaches the league. Wilfred Nancy has kind of overhauled it, put it in his image. He doesn't really play in the same manner. And even coaches like Tata Martino have admitted, this is a completely new approach. The one challenge for Columbus is, can they keep a coach of his caliber? And will Wilfred Nancy's approach of kind of, it's almost like a total football. Like, they are incredibly disciplined with their rotation. They don't necessarily have dedicated defensive players. The players they play on the back line aren't classical, center backs and fullbacks. And you'll see, Cucho Hernandez, their star forward, come back and fill in the back if a player's gone up in the forward position. They are organized in a different way than I've seen any MLS team.
Well,
and then on the other side of the ball, Inter Miami has obviously the biggest star power across the board, or at least at the top end of the roster. It's been never seen, and they're in the supporters shield driver's seat. So it's really hard. I mean, obviously there's a couple good teams like LAFC and the Galaxy on the West, but it's really hard to argue that these aren't the best two.
Yeah, a couple of things. You mentioned whether or not Columbus can hold on to Wilfred Nancy. And there are, I think it's Matt Doyle and Tom Bogert are both out there saying that they think Chris Henderson is going to leave Miami to go be Atlanta United's new general manager next season. Of course, Atlanta United fired Carlos Bocanegra, and the guy in charge there is somebody Chris Henderson knows very well, Garth Lagerwey. They worked together in Seattle. So there's something of a last hurrah kind of vibe. Obviously for Columbus, they have been champions under Wilfred Nancy. This is chasing another one of those. For Miami, last year was the Leagues Cup, an Open Cup final. They want to win an MLS Cup title. They have in their sights the Supporter Shield, which, as much as those European players in particular might value that, they also know that the real measure of a season in Major League Soccer is the MLS Cup title. I think if you are Columbus, if you're a fan of Columbus or you're a fan of Inter Miami, you worry about those things when they come. I mean, don't be thinking about Wilfred Nancy leaving until he says au revoir and leaves. He's still the manager, the coach of Columbus, and he's done a great job. In terms of what you said about the way the crew play, yes to all of that. But we have seen, moments where this team has been pulled apart. LAFC, there are teams in this league that can victimize Columbus if they send numbers forward and get caught without numbers in certain areas of the field in order to slow down a counterattack. So it's there, right? Whether or not Inter Miami is the kind of team that can take advantage of that, different question, because what does Inter Miami want to do? They want to have the ball. They want to set up Lionel Messi to be pulling strings or scoring goals like the one he just did this past weekend. They, of course, are also on a run of, 3 straight draws for Inter Miami? Do I have that right? As the things kind of loom, as the supporters' shield is just there beyond reach for the moment. And then, obviously, we're talking about the playoffs, and you don't want to be thinking ahead to the MLS Cup playoffs, because if you don't take care of your business now, you won't have momentum going into the playoffs to start with. So, I mean, these teams have maybe less to play for than a lot of the other teams down the stretch. And yet, because I think they'll see each other as the chief rival for the Eastern Conference title, it should be intense. It should be fun. We should see the best these teams have to offer.
I can confirm, yes, Miami on the back of 3 straight draws, Atlanta, NYCFC, and then Charlotte at the weekend. So not in raring hot form. And just one more point about the Columbus style of play. I was there at the Leagues Cup final against LAFC, and their bravery with the ball is super exciting to see.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
it can cost them when it doesn't come off right. But in the game that I saw against LAFC in that Leagues Cup final, they never got punished for that. And even in the toughest situations, they're still trying to play and pass the ball and did it very cleverly. And win, lose, or draw, they are an exciting watch. That match tonight at 7:45 at the classically named lower.com
You
field.
know, it's the Campeones Cup final that I'm remembering, where Davila scores the opener for Club America, and that came on a breakaway because Columbus basically they were in possession, but they turned the ball over in the wrong part of the field and got caught out. And obviously that's the risk that you take playing the way that Columbus does. And I would rather have teams do that than not from an entertainment perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly, and as you said, on balance, it has been massively successful for the Columbus Crew. And you have to imagine that if not for the Champions Cup campaign and some of the other things that have come up for them this season, and they sold one of their most important players from last year,
Yeah.
right? They sold a key midfielder named Morris, and yet have still managed to stay at a very high level. If they hadn't had that and the Campeones Cup and the Champions Cup and all these other things, who knows if they might be challenging Miami for the Supporters Shield? As it is, they are 8 points back, and they're not. I don't expect them to close that gap, even if Miami can't clinch the Supporters Shield tonight with a victory over Columbus.
And it speaks to the volume of their success that Columbus is in so many competitions and finals. And kind of just flipping over and looking at the table, the MLS season, for those unfamiliar, ends in 3 weeks. October 19th is the Super Saturday, the final
Decision Day. You have to say it like that, Robert. Decision Day.
decision day.
Okay, sure, like that, like Mickey Mouse. Yeah, exactly. That's how they want you to say it. That's how Major League Soccer wants you to say it. Decision Day. All right.
With just a few games remaining, Inter Miami at the top, followed by Columbus and Cincinnati, just 1 point behind Columbus. And that top three in the East, really a step above. It's a 10-point drop off behind Cincinnati to Orlando and
Well, let's
NYCFC.
let's do this very quickly, Robert. Let's do a quick power rankings for Major League Soccer, because Miami's got 3 games left, including tonight. Columbus has 4, including tonight. Everybody's on 30, 31 games played. A couple of teams, I think Toronto is on 32, Sporting's on 32. We don't expect Sporting to be threatening for anything. But give me a top 5. What's your power rankings right now in Major League Soccer if we had to give our top 5 teams?
So I would should I go 5 up to 1 or 1
If you
down?
want to do it that way, you want to build up to no, I think it's probably 1 to 5 is the best way to do this, because I don't know if I could hold those in my head. There's 29 teams in Major League Soccer, right? There's a lot of teams.
All right, so my top 5: Inter Miami,
Okay.
very closely followed by Columbus. Then I go the LA teams.
What order on the LA teams? Separated by 6 points. It's a gap. I mean, LAFC has a game in hand on the Galaxy. Who's better right now? Because I think it's very, very close. They play different. They play very different soccer, which is part of the intrigue there in Los Angeles.
I am going to go with LAFC purely on familiarity, because in all fairness, I haven't gotten to see very many Galaxy games. So my
Okay.
my tops are Inter Miami, Columbus, LAFC, LA Galaxy, and then those guys from Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, number 5. Okay. I mean, so what I think is interesting about that is that you don't see anybody, and LAFC and Salt Lake are both, Real Salt Lake are tied on points right now. Again, LAFC with a game in hand on Real Salt Lake. So both on 52 points. It's conceivable that LAFC will pull ahead. Probably, I'm not saying likely, but conceivable. But you see a significant gap between the LA teams and the rest of the West. Real Salt Lake, Colorado, Seattle, Houston, Vancouver, even. You see a significant gap.
In my mind, I feel like the West is kind of all bunched up. I don't know if there is that many standout teams in the West, in my
Okay.
opinion, to be
I
honest.
think
The West is harder to choose from.
I think I would have it seems like a coin flip for me. Inter Miami and Columbus. I like Columbus better. I think they're tested. I know Lionel Messi plays on that other side, but I'm going to put Columbus number one. I know that the supporter shield race does not indicate that, but I think Columbus is the best team in the league. Inter Miami at number two, and it's close. It's very, 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 very close. I will say Galaxy three. LAFC, their form was not good until that most recent win over Cincinnati, and they did that in Cincinnati. I might have Cincinnati despite that loss. I might have them number four, and then LAFC number five. There's something about LAFC I'm not liking at the moment.
Despite their Open Cup win, you're still doubting them in those tough pressure moments here.
Yeah, there's just something. The Open Cup that's Sporting. I mean, you're supposed to beat Sporting on your home patch in 2024. I mean, I give a lot of respect to Peter Vermees and the flat top, but either time has passed him by or Sporting's just not spending enough money to be competitive. They're having a terrible season. That doesn't say anything. Winning a trophy is nice for LAFC, and congratulations to them, but that has no bearing on what I think about their chances to win an MLS Cup title. And I think the Galaxy have leapt over them in terms of pure quality in the league. And I know we had the recent result 4-2 Galaxy win over LAFC as an indicator maybe of that fact.
Looking at the other end of the playoff race, the bubble side, the teams looking to pick up some points here before the end of the season, try to sneak in there in those 8th and 9th spots.
Yeah.
There is a big, starting with the East, there is a big clump of teams all within, a handful of results. Toronto and Philadelphia and Montreal all on 37 and 8th through 10th place. Atlanta and DC United just 3 points behind them.
Yeah, here's a fascinating thing. This is so very MLS, right? Toronto FC is in 8th place right now in the Eastern Conference, so they would be in the playoffs. They would have to play the 9th place team, right? That the 8-9 game is a thing. So, but technically, they'd be in the playoffs. They would play Philadelphia if the season ended today. Philadelphia could slip. I mean, it's possible. They've had a decent run of form and pulled themselves into that 9th playoff spot. Look at that goal difference. Toronto FC's negative 17 on the season, and yet here they are, at least with a decent shout at a playoff spot. That is so very Major League Soccer. I don't know if you want to think of it as a bad thing necessarily, but to score 39 goals in 32 games all year and somehow have a chance to make the playoffs is, I don't know if that means John Herdman's done a good job with bad tools or if they're just a bad team who have gotten lucky a few more times than some of their competitors for these spots. I will say, Montreal has always been a mystery. There's been some sounds of discontent coming from Quebec recently. Players maybe saying, hey, I don't want to come back if Laurent Courtois is the manager next year. That's out there. They're never drama-free in Montreal. And then Atlanta United, what a wacky, weird, ugly, gross, disgusting, I mean, those are the same words, disappointing season for the Atlanta United faithful. They want to find a head coach. If they make the playoffs this year, it's going to feel like they didn't deserve it, first of all. I know they probably want to make the playoffs. All the fans, you can't say, well, we don't want to make the playoffs, but I don't know that really changes anything for them. They're not going very far. They're not very good. And I wonder if Troy Lesesne is coaching for his job the last 3 matches of the season. If he doesn't make the playoffs, if DC will be out again looking for a new head coach. And I like Troy Lesesne as a person. It just hasn't worked despite having the Golden Boot leader in Christian Benteke. And then you want to set up the West for us? We should probably talk about them too.
Heading out west, the bubble region out there, not quite as close as the East, but Vancouver, Minnesota, and Portland occupying the final 3 spots of the 7, 8, 9, only separated by 2 points. But down to that 10th spot, the out of playoff spot is Dallas, 7 points behind, Austin behind them. So not quite as tight on the bubble in the West with Dallas and Austin and St. Louis trying to scrap to catch the Portlands and the Minnesotas.
Yeah, the West is a little different. I think we do see like a difference in quality. I mean, clearly the Galaxy are very good. LAFC on their best day are very good, even if I have some doubts about them right now. Real Salt Lake always feels like they're flattering to deceive, and yet they've scored 62 goals this year. Like that output in 31 matches says that they are somebody to be reckoned with in the Western Conference. It's not all smoke and mirrors with Real Salt Lake. Clearly, you've got to give Chris Armas a ton of credit for what he's done in Colorado. They made the big signings, Zach Steffen, and Georgi Mihalovic, but to pull themselves back into the conversation. And then the fight for the last couple of spots. I mean, because the gap between Portland and Dallas is so large, the intrigue, as you said, is lacking out there. And instead of can somebody chase down Portland and Minnesota for that last playoff spot, what we're talking about is just whether the positioning is going to remain the same. And then do we have, I mean, Dallas is hunting for a coach. And I know that there's been reports, Tom Bogert saying that Peter Lucchini is going to be the main candidate for that job, even if they haven't made that decision yet. I just saw on the internet, I think yesterday, that people are renting those sign trucks, with the big LED signs on the side. It says "Wolf Out" in
Oh,
Austin, so they're not feeling too good about their
they're
situation.
channeling their Wenger out airplane signs.
It is the modern version of that. And then obviously St. Louis has already fired their coach. I've talked about Peter Vermees a little bit. He's an institution. He's the furniture in Kansas City. It's hard to imagine them dumping him. But if they miss out on the playoffs by this amount again, ouch. And then, obviously San Jose is a tire fire. We didn't talk about the bottom teams in the East, but there is a race for the worst run club in Major League Soccer right now. Maybe San Jose, already wooden spoon winners for 2024, get that label as the worst run club in Major League Soccer. But man, it's not like we're lacking for candidates.
Yeah, just a deeper dive on San Jose here. Conceding 72 goals and only scoring 37, a negative 35 goal difference. Already wooden spoon with, about a month to go. That's just kind of an unreal, terrible season.
It's pretty bad, and it dovetails very nicely with what's going on with the Oakland A's as they just played their final game at the Oakland Coliseum, and now we'll go play in a minor league baseball stadium in Sacramento, California. And nothing against Sacramento. I was born in Sacramento, so shout out Sacktown. But that's not where they should be playing Major League Baseball games. And the reason they're doing that is because they have a terrible owner that everybody hates. And oh, guess what? He also owns the San Jose Earthquakes. So that's fun. That's nice for us Major League Soccer fans. San Jose being this bad is sad. I always said the biggest waste in MLS is clearly the Chicago Fire. But it's sad that San Jose, who does have a rich history, was already moved once, right? Back in the team that left San Jose to go to Houston, then they rebooted San Jose, and now here we are again with a terribly run, absolutely moribund franchise that can't seem to get out of its own way.
Interesting that you referenced Chicago Fire. They at least have 12 more points, but they have scored only 37 goals, exactly in common with the San Jose Earthquakes. And going back to the Oakland A's thing, how unreal is that they are ripping out one of the marquee franchises in a sport and then not having a better alternative to go to?
I mean, yeah, this is the fact. I mean, this is not a baseball show, obviously, but because of the shared ownership with John Fisher, the fact that the rest of Major League Baseball's owners are just kind of looking the other way. Oh, well, nothing's happened. I don't see anything. The fact that that's going on is ridiculous, disgusting, and it doesn't make you feel good. It does kind of bring up the trauma, if you will, over the Crew situation a couple years back. And I know Crew fans are not necessarily feeling terribly about the way Austin and their season is going right now and all of that. But there's pictures. Austin fans are really losing it down there. And it's like, well, look at who your owner is. The guy that tried to steal the Columbus Crew out of Columbus. And it's like, Can owners stop misbehaving, please? Can they stop being complete and total jerks?
Yeah, comeuppance is a bit of a bitter pill, isn't it? Reaping what we've sown, and being the victim of the guy who already did that to another group of people. Who knows? I mean, not moving or whatever, but not necessarily being the top tier owner that they'd want. But I do gotta say, respect to the passion of Austin fans for having the gumption and
Yeah. Hey,
the
look, man. Here,
caring to buy a billboard truck and protest the team.
if you're willing to put your own money into a campaign to get the manager fired, it shows some sort of passion. It shows a level of passion. That's absolutely true. You care a lot, and good on you, Austin fans. I guess. I guess.
You guess? Well, I think that probably wraps up our look at the MLS playoff picture for now.